Yeah, yeah, caught your cheap ass. You were supposed to be looking at that AEM fuel rail for your B series, but you didn't want to spend all that money, right? So you got yourself a little cheap one. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Why you putting no name parts on your car? Huh? Oh, I know why. Cause you're broke. You's broke. Well, guess what? I'm broke too. I got too many projects. So you know what I went out and did? I got myself one of these. You can't even tell what it is. You see this little crappy box right here? You know what it has in it? Fuel rail stuff. I'm going to show you what we're doing. All right, so in my last video, as I showed y'all, my fuel pressure regulator was leaking, sending, fuel into the intake manifold. No bueno, can't have that happening. So I went out and was searching around because I was just going to replace the regulator. But then I figured out, why not just replace the regulator, the rail, and actually, you know what? Keep the rail on. I'm going to keep my rail on and use the fittings that this new rail came with, convert that over to a canister style fuel filter, and yeah. So in the last video, I showed y'all that my AEM fuel pressure regulator was leaking due to the vacuum line. It's sending E85 into the intake manifold, which is a no bueno. That causes problems, hard start, running in a richer condition, all that fun jazz. Now, originally, I was just like, you know what? I'll just rebuild the regulator. Not a big deal. You know why? Because in that black box right there next to my, for whatever reason, I have furniture polish out here, there is an AEM fuel pressure regulator rebuild kit that I bought for an old AEM fuel pressure regulator. But whenever I went to rebuild it, installed everything, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Diaphragm was still leaking. Did some research on it. Apparently it's a common issue. And I just think that these AEM fuel pressure regulators, while they worked greatly in the past, I think nowadays they just start to show their age really well. And they just might be this just iteration of this fuel pressure regulator, because this thing's got to be at least 10 years old. Like, that's OG. But instead of spending another, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks, however much I spent on the rebuild kit for it, I decided I'm gonna hop on Amazon and see what they have to offer. And then I found this. So we're gonna do a product review. Before you buy, whenever I got this, the mail lady told me, hey, when they put this in my thing, this box is open and torn up like this. Some of the parts fell out. I put what I found back in. So automatically right there, that tells me, and as you can see, they just put a little bit of tape right here. I guess you're supposed to open it up like so and, flip the lid open. That tells me that this box quality isn't the best. Now, it could have been smashed in transport. I don't know. But considering the condition of everything else on it, and then this just being ripped off here, I guess there's supposed to be a flap or something. I don't know. Already not looking so good. So let's get it out, and I'm gonna give you guys my honest review on it. All right, so let's see here. This little smaller box contains, what is this? Okay, so we have some fittings for the rail, and we have the fuel pressure regulator itself. Now, the brand of this is OSIAS, I guess is how they pronounce it. Here's the rail itself. OSIAS, I don't know. Just your normal, I think all fuel rails are relatively the same now. I don't think there's any special fuel rail that you're buying off the shelf. I think they're all going to flow exactly the same. They probably all have the same internal diameter bore for the fuel. Just CNC aluminum, pretty basic. There's some kids over in China slaving away at making these things. Outside of that, the paint looks good. I like how they lasered on the brand name. Not that I really care to show that I'm rocking an OSIAS racing part, but this entire car was built on budget eBay stuff, so I can't really, it is what it is at that point. Upon further review, what I don't like already is there are a few nicks, not that you guys can really see them right there, and what I just caught looking at it is there's a little bit of damage in the threads, and I can't get the camera to focus on it. Maybe if I back up a bit. Where you at? Be right here. Little silver part. I'll show you guys. So we're already not looking that good. Now, It's not horrible. It'll still probably work no problem. I don't think I have to chase the threads or anything, but you get what you pay for, and this is definitely showing that I'm getting what I'm paying for here, which was I think maybe $50. There it is right there. As you can see, it's from OSIAS. Some person that lives in, I believe, what is it, Kentucky is where it came from, or some warehouse in Kentucky that's ordering mass parts from China, branding them as their own, like literally everyone else does right now, and pushing parts. Only reason I bought this one is because it was the closest to me. The rest of them were out in California. I live in Illinois. Kentucky's not that far away from me, so it took about 2 days to get here. If I would have ordered from California, and it would have been literally the exact same quality with some other no name brand etched on here, it would have cost a little bit less actually, but it would have took a couple more days to get here. I'll pay for the convenience of having it closer and getting it quicker, as opposed to me waiting if I ordered on a Tuesday and it not showing up till a Monday. I ordered this one on a Tuesday and it showed up on a Thursday. So that is what it is. But let's look at the rest of this kit actually and see what else it comes with. I'm gonna take the fuel pressure regulator out the bag here. So it just looks like your standard, fuel pressure regulator. Very similar to the AEM style regulator. The only difference I can really see here is the vacuum nipple is on the side as opposed to the fuel pressure regulator. The AEM fuel pressure regulator having it on the front. Not a big deal. Just, reroute the vacuum line. Nothing crazy. Like I said, we got some hardware here. Looks like this is for the fuel pressure regulator itself. 2 bolts, 2 Allen bolts to bolt it to the rail. A nipple to put the, is that the return line? Yeah. On, and looks like a couple gaskets. And an extra bolt that I'm not really sure what it's for, but we'll figure it out. Set that right there. What else is in this destroyed box? We have, I believe this should be the gauge. Yes. So this is the fuel pressure gauge that bolts up to the regulator. And there's also some fittings here for the fuel rail, which is nice. So you get your gaskets, you get your fittings. I'm sorry, I'm way off the camera there. We got some crush washers that will need to be replaced every time you take them off. Not a big deal. Most people don't do it anyway, but that's what they're there for. And it's like we got our filter here. So instead of running that ginormous OEM Honda style filter, I was thinking about dropping down to one of these guys just because I was curious about how they work actually. I have a buddy who's running one on his card. It seems to work great, but he also isn't running E85. So I don't know how it's going to affect me, or if I'll have to replace it more often than what he does, or more often than what I have to replace the factory fuel pressure or the factory fuel filter. But we'll see. And then it comes with this line here that you bolt up to here, and it looks like we're going to have to adapt the hard line from the what is that thing? I keep having brain farts. I am sorry. The fuel filter to this guy right here, which I'm not sure is how that's going to go. But we'll figure it out. I've never done it before, so have some patience with me. But yeah, I mean, that's what $60 gets you. And it's crazy to think, 10 years ago, whenever I started doing this stuff, this exact same kit, even if it was just like some no-name eBay China stuff, would have ran you like 120, 150 bucks still, no problem. And then the AEM ones would have ran you about 300. But hey, obviously they're making them and obviously they're selling. People like me buy them, people who also are working on a budget buy them, and they do work. The fuel rail I have on this car right now is actually a no-name China one, and it seems to be working perfectly fine. So toss that box away because I don't need it, and we are going to get to assembling this fuel rail actually. Yeah, I'm disrespecting this crap. I don't care enough. So yeah, I guess what we're going to do is we're going to start with getting this fuel pressure regulator assembled. Looks like I got to put the fitting in on the bottom. I guarantee it's probably a set to absolutely nothing, so I'll probably just go ahead and turn it a few times. And look how tiny that nipple is. Like there's almost no. I mean, I can blow through it, so ew, it is. Yeah, yeah. What's that? The tears of. Yeah, what the hell? Anyway, yeah, so let's get this put together here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the fittings that it came with, or that's the wrong one. These are the fittings that it came with. I'm going to rip this open here. So I'm assuming that guy goes on the bottom, and there's this little gasket here, if I can get it out, that goes, I'm assuming you go over here. Yeah, yeah. Do you work like that? You do. Just look at that. Probably not necessary because it has that little O-ring gasket thing, but you guys know anytime I have fluid running through anything, I like to put a little bit of Teflon on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. This pipe, I think I bought this off of Amazon for like maybe $3. It's a big old tube and it's really worth it. So I'll go ahead and smear some of that around, just make it look all like nobody cares about it, because obviously I don't. And we'll go ahead and thread you in. There we go. So it is threading in nicely, I'll give it that. I mean, it helps that it's got a little bit of lube on it now. But yeah. Alright, so let me get something to tighten that up with. I'm not going to get... There seems to be what does it, so just give it a good, good snug there. I don't think it has to be overly tightened or anything. That should do it well. Alright. What else we got in here in this bag? So, I don't know what this is. It's a little... like a banjo-style bolt. I think it may be for... Honestly, I don't know what it's going to be for. I might not use it, so we're just going to leave that right there. Comes with the gasket. It's a little fat of a gasket, actually. But it works. Well, you know, whatever. Leave that there for now. And then you get these two little crappy... Oh my god, the quality of these bolts are trash. There's still machining marks on them and everything. And they're not even symmetrical. The edges aren't symmetrical at all. Once again, you get what you pay for. That's why I'm doing this. That way you know what to expect if you decide to buy this OSIAS fuel rail. Alright, so as you can see, it's on there. It's tight. Problem, these little washers, though, aren't actually machined to fit this rail. They're so thin that they just bend themselves into place. I don't particularly like that, but if it holds, it holds. There seems to be a little bit of a gap, but I think it's just from how big that O-ring is. I literally can't do anything about it, so if it leaks, kind of is what it is. I'll fix that if I need to. Next thing we're going to install is the gauge. So I actually have one of these on my fuel filter. However, since we're replacing the fuel filter with a much smaller one that doesn't have that little adapter at the top, we're going to need one on the rail. This isn't a necessity, but this helps when you're trying to, if you're having problems with your car, you're trying to figure out, you know, if I'm having ignition, fuel problems, what, at least seeing what your fuel pressure is can help with answering a lot of questions. So we'll go ahead, once again, Teflon paste, because you guys know I love it, and get her threaded in. And that seems to work greatly. However, I don't know what this hole right here is for. I don't know if that goes through, so I'm going to pull this out real quick. And I'm going to blow through it. Okay, no air goes through it, so it's closed off. All right, cool. Then we're going to put this back on. And I would imagine you just tighten it down. It looks to be about probably an 11, actually. Let's see here. What are you? I got a half. Let's see if a half fits. Half fits. Cool. We'll use the half. I don't know how tight this has to be. I don't think you have to go until it stops. I think you just have to have it ran down pretty well. And I just want it facing upward, so whenever I look at it, I'm not looking at it from the side. Boom, just like that. Cool beans. We'll move on to, I guess these are the fittings for the inlet and, you know, the outlet of the fuel rail. So I need to figure out how I go about putting this on the car first, I guess, and then go about this hardware. All right, so I'll pull the filter out, and I am not too sure about this filter. Reason being is because, let's see if I can get it to angle down right in there. You see how you can just see right through that? There's just a little, very, very thin mesh screen down in there. And clearly it's not super fine because I can see right through it into the table. So hopefully there's more inside of it. Maybe that screen is just there to, you know, catch the big chunks. But I don't know how I feel about it. But we'll see. Hey, I'm here. We're testing the full kit. So we'll see what happens. All right, in the meantime here, I'm actually going to pull this hardware out. So this is a block off right here for the this side of the regulator going in where the fuel pressure regulator sits. It just sits right in there. This is really common. This is in case you want to run an external style fuel pressure regulator. mounted to the chassis somewhere. They also give you these little Allen block offs here. So let's say if I didn't want to use this regulator and I want to use something else, I can pull this off and put this in place of where the fuel goes in and be set. Then I could just run another line right here and feed into it. So that's cool. I like that. I do like all the hardware that they are giving us with it. All for $50 or $60 too, which if you think about is not a whole lot of money for what you're getting. So that can mean two different things in my opinion. That means there's something to be said about, oh, I almost forgot my Teflon. Something to be said about the quality of this part, or something to be said about these companies who are gouging prices and making us pay for a name as opposed to quality. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I guess this is where this line is going to go into. Hopefully these threads don't give us too much of a problem. It might, but hopefully not. So, my original plan actually was to use my new injectors, but since it's like the beginning of the year and my tuner is incredibly busy and whatnot, I don't want to bother them too much with a new tune. So we're just going to smack in the old injectors for now and see how she works. But in the meantime, we're going to hop over to the car and we got to figure out how these guys get installed. Alright, so before anything else, obviously I got to remove all my old stuff. Taking off the fuel rail is relatively simple. The only thing that might fight you if you don't have the right size wrench for it is this nut right here, which is obnoxiously big. I'm pretty sure it's like a 22 or something like that. But, you know, obviously since I've been doing this for a while, I have a 22. But also most of the time, and be real, I just use a crescent wrench and it come right off. It's not torqued super high, so as long as you're on it pretty snug with a crescent wrench, you shouldn't round it off. But you'd be surprised. I've seen people do stupid stuff, and it does happen. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pop that off, and we'll get to figuring out how we are going to install the new filter and what I have to do to that old line to get all this to work. All right, so fuel rail's off. Injectors are just kind of hanging out right now. I figured out that this line that goes to the fuel pressure regulator is ripped. So I'm actually going to replace that. And hopefully it comes off easily. But I'm pretty sure I do have some fuel line running around here somewhere that I have to find in the meantime. But yeah, so next what I'm going to do before I even attempt to mess with that actually, I'm going to go ahead and get this fuel filter off and I'm going to see what I can do. I might have to go to the store and get a pipe cutter. You'll just clamp it onto the sides of it and turn it, and it'll, you know, cut it without you having to use any type of power tool, which could risk a fire, which is really nice. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully it comes off smoothly and we can just make it all work. All right, so I got the old filter off. So as you can see here, it comes with this little banjo bolt. I believe that's what they're called. I can never remember the actual specific names of things. It's funny, but yeah. So because this line is actually flared out, you can't use the existing fitting, which means that you have to cut this and put the new fitting on. Now, where my problem lies is I don't know exactly where I want to cut it because I want it to be on a straight. That way it gives it the best chance of sealing. I don't have to worry about anything. And the straightest portion is actually down here past this bend. But given that the motor's in the car and I'm definitely not pulling the intake manifold off to do this job, I might have to do it a little bit higher, which isn't a big deal. Just won't look as clean as I would like it to. But I can also probably bend this line a little bit and try to get it to straighten out some. So yeah, we got to run by the store because I used to have a pipe cutter and I don't know what I did with it. So, trip to Wally World. Here we come. All right, let's get to it. Yeah, I already did the oil change. I don't need inspection. Change of plans. We're not going to Walmart. We're actually going to Harbor Freight, and apparently we need to stop, get air. I'm Bruce Leroy whipping show enough ass with a charred fist, boy. All right, looks like we got what we need. Small guy, eighth of an inch to an inch and an eighth, and that should be plenty enough for the fuel line. Now I just get out of here before I buy anything else because this place is like Target for mechanics. All right, so apparently I'm Arthur's little sister DW and can't read because this definitely is only rated to aluminum. So, you know, we're gonna see what it does. If it works, great. If not, you know, I'll go get something else. But here I am talking crap, saying this probably won't do it, but it did it within 30 seconds. Like literally, boop, boop, straight off. We no longer need this guy. It is useless to us. So you go there, and now how we're going to run this. All right, so we ran into a little bit of an issue. Oh, number one, actually, my tubing bender, we ran into two issues. My tubing bender that I got is just ever so slightly too small for this line. But you see, I just cut it a little bit shorter. That way we can get that fitting on there. What I figured out is that the brass fitting that couples everything together goes on with a little bit of love. But this fitting right here, which is arguably just as important as the brass fitting, has the hole is just slightly ever too small. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and just like lightly just drill it out, just give it a little bit more room. It doesn't need to be incredibly loose, but it just needs to be able to go on there. But yeah, this guy right here goes on perfectly fine. When it comes to installing these, I'll show you guys how I've done it in the past. It seems to work. And yeah, so let me get that fitting situated for that line, and then we'll get to putting everything back together. All right, so I had to get a little creative here. As you can see, this fitting is no longer black. I had to heat it up, which was kind of cool to watch. I actually like that. What was that, like a brass amber type of color? I don't know. But I got it on there. Just took a little bit of work. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this brass fitting. And when I said I'd show you guys how I install these, I'll go ahead and do that. So these are brass. You got to be really careful. They're really soft. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of lube on it. We're going to slide it onto the edge of this guy, and it just goes right there. So what I would normally do, and what I would always recommend actually if you do this, is it's actually going on really nicely. I didn't really have to fight with this one like I've had to do in the past. Never tap it with anything metal. Get your mallet. I just have a rubber mallet right here, and that's what you use to tap on just any brass fitting, unless you don't care about it. Because if you don't, and you do this, you will be replacing that fitting. Next thing is I'm actually gonna, before I put the fuel rail on even, I'm gonna put that line on to make sure that thread's in, just in case I have to change something. And yeah, we should be golden. So yeah. Thus far, I will say that though this kit does have some issues, everything seems to be working thus far. Okay, so I had to run some errands, had to get some injector gaskets, like O-ring gaskets, stuff like that. Got the fuel rail in the car, the injectors are in the car. I got the fittings and everything tight, but this kit is only 95% complete. So the reason I say that is because this feed line right here does not fit that. This is way too big for this right here, which, honestly sucks. So I'm not completely sure what to do in this situation, because I looked into it and I figured out that this kit, this exact same OSIAS, whatever kit, is generically the same. Like I was saying earlier, all these eBay, Chinese, fuel rail setups are all like this. I hopped on Amazon, even though I bought mine off of eBay. I hopped on Amazon because it's a lot easier to see customer reviews on certain products. Found this exact same fuel rail. Mind you, actually, the exact same fuel rail that was $10 cheaper, which is a rarity because Amazon's normally like at least $10 to $20 more expensive than eBay is. And everyone was saying that this is an incomplete kit. They don't have the fitting that you are supposed to run to that, which is my fault for buying such a kit. I probably should have done a little bit more research beforehand, but that's also why I'm making this video. That way, if whoever watches it knows what to look out for. OSIAS kit, is it worth it? Depends on how you look at things. Is it worth it for parts of the kit? Sure, especially if you grab it off of Amazon. Sure. Is the entire kit itself worth it to run on your car? Absolutely not, because you won't be running it on your car because your car won't run. So if I had to rate this, I'm going to start doing these products like this, these eBay cheap products, on a scale of 1 to 5. I'm going to give it a 2. And the only reason it gets a 2 actually is because I got some of the pieces that I wanted so I could tuck my fuel filter. Outside of that, the rail is exactly the same as the one I pulled off. I mean, when I say exactly the same, I'm literally, this one just doesn't have a laser etch like branding on it, but every exact thing is exactly the same on this one. And this one only cost me like 15 bucks. But it also just came with what's on it. I didn't buy anything else. But with this kit, it's not worth it. You're going to be having to outsource other parts. I actually ended up changing out the fuel pressure regulator gasket because it was just way too big. Yeah, would not recommend. This is one of those times where I'm going to say, unless you really don't care about running a small, I keep forgetting what it is, a fuel filter like that, I'd stay away from it. I think getting the fuel filter line and everything was worth maybe $30, not the $60 that I spent altogether. I could have did without the rail. Realistically, all I really needed was a new fuel pressure regulator, and my car would have been fine. But I figured if I was going to do this, I may as well just do everything. And I'm not regretting it per se, but I definitely would have thought about it a little bit more had I known. I would have been like, all right, if I buy this kit, then I know I'm going to have to find an AN adapter to make this line work. But, 2020, hindsight is 2020, is what it is type stuff. So what I'm going to end up doing actually is I'm going to hop in my thinking chair, wherever I put it up, and figure some things out. It would suck to not run that line, but if it comes down to it, I can make something else work. Like I said, I was only in it for the fuel pressure regulator, or the fuel pressure regulator and the fuel filter anyway. I wasn't really in it for everything else that it came with. So yeah, OSIAS, what are you guys? OSIAS racing parts, you guys suck. And I don't really like bad mouthing companies because I know a lot of these smaller, companies are just trying to make it, but you should probably check the quality of your parts, number one. Number two, tape your packaging. That way things don't fall out. Number three, make sure what you're selling to your customers actually fit and they don't have to go running around outsourcing other things to make your kit work. That's just, those are things that can honestly be avoided. Like they definitely, I don't know what they were thinking. They could have done something else. But it is what it is. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do in this situation. Like I said, I'm going to have to give it some thought. I'll figure something out. I'm not super upset by any means, but it's one of those things where it's like, this could have been avoided had they done their due diligence. It also could have been avoided on my part had I bought a higher quality kit. So if you're a small company and you're selling Chinese branded parts or Chinese made parts and branding them as your own, be sure what you're buying actually fits the cars that you're selling them for, especially on like eBay, because it's absolutely nothing for someone to give you a 1-star rating and your rating drops down. And when your rating drops down, eBay feels like they can take more of your money in fees because your rating isn't up to their standards, which is just kind of something that eBay does to screw the little guy over, to be real with you. But that's going to be it for this video. I'm not necessarily upset. I'm a little annoyed, but these things happen. Next video, I got 2 things I need to do. Another one is an eBay part 2. eBay, it is a part, but it's a very large part. And we'll be swapping radio out in this bad boy. So yeah, I hope you guys stick around. I hope you guys enjoyed this little short video on if this works or not. And I hope that this helps somebody before they go purchasing this kit. So hope you guys have a good week. Today is Sunday, January, 8th, maybe? If I can get my phone in my pocket. January 7th, I'm sorry. I hope that the New Year's was good to you guys. And I hope that you guys with project cars who watch my videos are also, getting things ready for the upcoming season. So anyway, peace, love, and hair grease. Peace. All right, so I know I just actually ended that video off, but then I had a random thought in my thinking chair. I love that chair. I was like, wait a minute. I have a line that has a fitting like this, an AN fitting on one side, and this fitting on the other side. So if you do purchase this kit, granted how cheap it is, it's probably worth buying the kit, but then you have to source this out. And honestly, I don't know what car I pulled this off of. I don't know if I know I pulled it off of something. I just don't know where it came from. But find something like this. Have this side open, and you'll have to run the factory big old 22 millimeter nut. But you could just mount this side up to it. I reached out to the eBay sellers and told them, hey, look, before I leave a negative review on your product, let's see if we can resolve this in any way, shape, or form, you know, because I don't like really leaving negative reviews for anybody. But a lot of these bigger companies, they don't really care about the little person anyway. They just want their money. So if they don't want to resolve it, then we're leaving a negative review. I'm going to drive their 98% down to probably about a 96. And then that'll get their attention. They'll be like, oh, wait, we'll help you. But then we won't ever be able to purchase from them again because typically they block you after that. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. You need this bad boy right here. This is the only way it's going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and smack it on real quick and make sure I don't have any leaks. And if I do, I'll fix them. But I'm not going to do that on camera. So, yeah, anyways, just letting you guys know that.